about 25 park line drive. And like always, I'm kicking it live. Gonna call the fellas to see if they's with this. Gonna get down with the sound of big breakfast. Start off the day with some Bob Marley. Woods for that fresh parlay. Maybe even spark a little Nicky J. And then it's off China City in the fastest way. Cause if you gotta get downtown real quick, then the only way to go is up.
Good morning, good afternoon. Hello, how is everyone today? Doing it live still from the sunshine state of Florida. But we're sitting at a cool and crisp 60 degrees this morning down here in the lovely Lee County. I guess, yeah, Lee County. Fort Myers, Cape Coral. Huge win for the Phillies last night. We're going to get into that later tonight on the Bleach Brothers Sports Network show, 8 p.m. on nofilter.net. Special guest, myself, AJ Johnson, Nick the Flick, and one and the only, Lenny Nails Dykstra, of your 1986 world champion New York Mets and your 1993 NLCS champ Philadelphia Phillies. Just doing a little quick research on Nails, and we'll get to this later on as we're talking about. But man, like, you talk about a consistent playoff offensive threat. We'll get into that later. So please tune in tonight. Big welcome out to Henry Markin on the platform this morning. Very first show, recapping the Golden State Warriors, the Dubs. Out there, he's part of Dub Nation, Splash Brothers, and lots of energy, lots of passion. Have him on the platform with everyone. Speak your mind, follow your passion, young man. Make it real, make it rain. Gonna go from Clay to Curry to Markin for three. Love it, and I caught about 5-10 minutes of the program before I jumped over on mine after the Daily Hustle with Kowalski and the CR, Mr. Burns. Mr. Burns. Great energy. Totally knowledgeable, talking about, defense efficiency, talking about the passion, talking about age, and talking about how, one guy controlling chemistry and, playing off of that. I thought it was great because last week we started to get into this, and then Monday I was really able to hit it about building your teams, building yourself, building your career, building relationships for both now and in the future. And we sort of worked on the components of ourself and what we needed to sort of get us to that moment, right? We talked about expectations versus reality. We talked about what we think are the best options for us because of what society sometimes dictates should be the best options aren't necessarily the best options for the tools that we come equipped with, and that eventually over time we learn and grow and have experience, and we're able to move sort of down further into these avenues, which is great. Also, the whole idea that this growth, although there are instances where there is that little bit of a spontaneity, 9 times out of 10, you're not catching lightning in a bottle. And when you do catch lightning in a bottle, that's because all of this hard work, all of this preparation, everyone has an understanding, everyone realizes around you, what their skill set is, what your skill set is, and you just persevere. Um, of course, Eric talked on his program about acknowledging the young men for the team that he helps coach, that they have met and eclipsed or at the precipice of doing that with 20 wins in a row, same as the Moneyball A's did. And the big message and the big takeaway, and I'm glad it was brought up in the chat, and I'm glad Eric was able to expand on it a little bit, was that instead of focusing on the wins as uh, the wins as a celebration and just leaving it at that, there was really a lot of emphasis placed on why. Like, why did we accomplish this? Why did we get here? How are we maintaining it? And again, it gets back to the function of the individuals. And, when you're persevering, you're going ahead, you're keeping your craft, and it's melding with the other teammates over here. As a whole, this vehicle, that is like the U team. and over here, this is your relationship and your family, and this is your career, and this is your outside social circle. You are moving forward, and a lot of times you may not always get the W, right? I mean, like in plenty of times in life, we find ourselves like not getting the W, right? You had a great day's of work. You see your process, you see your progress, over a week's time, a month's time, a year's time. You look back and you wake up and like, uh, he brought up Corey Lytle saying, "Man, we won 12 in a row. Who knew?" Because when you're so invested in the process, when you're so invested in the growth and the becoming better and honing your craft and really paying attention to those individuals around you, um, you I'm not saying you lose sight of time and you lose sight of accomplishment, because you don't want to lose sight of the accomplishment, but it becomes a habit, right? Winning becomes a habit, just like losing becomes a habit, right? And, then obviously we experience the two paradigms of like, fuck, we're losing and I can't stand this place and it's so horrible. And he never talks to me. She never talks to me. We never get along and they're not listening, blah, 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 blah. On the opposite side, there's such a calm, relaxed atmosphere to a point, but it's also, it lends itself to the constructive criticism, the constructive acknowledgement of things that, hey, let's do this, let's work on this, let's get better like this, let's keep pushing ourselves along, always improving yourself, always building yourself for the future and for right now. And that's how people mess it up, right? So like people will worry about, oh, what do you do back then? What do you do back then? Well, hey, it doesn't matter what we did back then. That may give us a baseline for what an expectation should be, but then expectation only becomes realization through participation. You you can only bring this to light by actively engaging and doing it. And when you are able to hone in on those sort of things, hey, what's up, AJ? You're able to really begin to put those pieces in place. So, as our conversation starts today, and we've come to this point where we're in a spot where we want to be, or we're in a spot that is acknowledging our skills, acknowledging our qualities, our emotions, our relationship goals, all that shit, right? Like we're in that spot. So now it's like you have an opportunity at this point, just like you will in every avenue of your life, to be proactive and aggressive in a positive way, or be complacent and lazy and make the not necessarily the safe choice, but the choice that feels good. And so many times I was never a big guy on, because I was one of my biggest um, qualities. And I'm saving this for Friday. I don't want to use the word right now. Is that I am almost to a fault with my loyalty. Like even at some point, there has to be a line drawn where you sit there and say, "Man, like it's really not a fruitful situation. It's not a fruitful business endeavor. It's not a fruitful uh, relationship. It's not a fruitful habit, right?" And we as individuals, we justify these things, right? We just, oh, well, that's because that's my cousin, so and so's brother's aunt's, roommate. What does that make us, Lone Star? Absolutely nothing. And it's like, that's right. It makes us absolutely nothing. And when you're able to differentiate between these sort of individuals and situations, and you're able to make that tough decision, which it's a tough decision. I mean, let's not sugarcoat. It's a fucking tough decision. Anytime that you make a choice outside of like the basic stuff, like, oh, what kind of coffee am I having today? What am I having for breakfast? When you make these formal changes in your life, when you make these life changing choices, it should be difficult in one sense, and it should be easy in the other sense. A lot of times we don't want to see our own reality because of all of these other barriers that we've put up around us to justify the means of our existence. Ooh, deep today, right? And unfortunately, what happens a lot of times is that it builds into these moments to where you wake up one day, or you wake up in the middle of the afternoon, or you're driving down 405 or 95 or 17 or 50, and it's like smack. And you're like, why in the hell do I keep doing this? Why do I hell why the hell do I keep investing myself and my resources and my emotions and my time and my energy in something that really isn't fruitful? And there's times where like you can you have this choice, right? And then there's other times where, and we'll get into it, it's not that it's not an option, but the self responsibility and investment that you've um, created, you're the one that has to adjust to make the change, or you're the one that has to sort of put it out the pasture. So we want to talk about then surrounding yourself with good people, right? Because we're always surrounded by like our foundation people, like our base people. Base people are always there. They're people from the neighborhood, the people you went to school with. They're your cousins. We're going to take immediate family. We're going to put it over here for a second, and then under that umbrella of immediate family, we're going to put kids, and we'll put that over here for a second. I'm talking about the people outside of your walls that come in and out of your life, that surround you, that sort of they're always kind of there in the background. But if you like hit the lottery, they'd be at your door knocking, right? Those people, or they're the ones that you need help doing something, and oh yeah, so and so's got that. Oh, so and so's got that. So in those instances, even in um, the familiar aspect, at some point, you are able to subtly at times pick and choose who you want to be around and involved with. Everybody's got that one aunt and that one uncle, right? Everybody's got that one cousin and that one niece and that one nephew. Like, if that's their thing. All right, that's cool. But for the most part, even if you have those individuals who have those little quirks and pet peeves and characteristics, blah 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 blah, you as an adult, you as a young person coming into their own, one of the things you have control over, and it really is, man. It's so God, man, your parents told you so, right? It's like, the company that you keep, is a direct reflection of, who you are. And you never really want that to be, like the stamp on you, because I get to choose who I want to choose and blah 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 blah. But if you're hanging out with a bunch of thugs, whether you like it or not, you could be a saint. You're still going to get quantified in this group of thugs. Like, oh, there's the group of thugs. Well, I'm an angel. I'm a saint. Nothing ever happened. Well, it's not who you're hanging out with. And collectively, the synergy of that group is X, Y, and Z. So as you are able to make these choices, rather than go out, we found a place that works for us, right? On Monday, we found an environment that suits our gifts and talents, right? We found uh, the beginnings of an environment where we're bettering ourselves, trying to be better for the ones around us. So now we talk about uh, picking our support system and our friends. Again, take family up here, take kids over here if we're at that point in our lives. Take your personal relationships, your personal intimate relationships, and we're gonna put that up here. They're all here. We're gonna get to them. Not today, but we're gonna get to them. We're gonna talk specifically about friends. Um, the big buzzword there for a while was like the networking. Who's your network? Who's in your network? Used to be like, who's in your circle? Who's in your tribe? Who's in the squad, right? Not AOC and the girls, but who's in the squad? But these are sort of the out. You know, everyone's seen the diagrams, right? There's you in the center, and you've got the circle of friends. Like it's a little bigger, 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 till eventually you've got like you know complete stranger acquaintance over here. You're never gonna see him again, blah blah blah. But I got something about that too. So, what are the qualities of like a really good friend? Like, what are the qualities of someone that you want to personally choose to be around you? And what we're going to do is we're going to assume. I know this is I'm asking a lot for everybody here today, but we're going to assume that the other individual who we're going to make this hypothetical friend, they're looking for the same thing, right? Because we're gonna bypass um, the courtship part of the friendship. Okay, I mean, let's just assume right here. Here's our hypothetical assumption for the day with friends. We're gonna assume that you share a similar interest, you share similar long term goals, that you share um, one or two things that connect you outside of um, the environment and uh, career component or the neighborhood component, similar background, etc. Right? We're talking about, um, hey, you both like X, Y, Z. All right, awesome. Okay, and you both get along. Oh, that's really cool. Oh, you laugh the joke. Blah 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 blah. So when you get to pick this person, this person looking for the same thing. Man, I want someone who understands me. Oh, I want someone who gets me. Oh, I want someone who I can laugh with. Who like when I talk about the Marvel comic universe, like, hey, the writing board, they're just as excited and jacked up as I am. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I've got superheroes. You guys put on a mask and a cape and superpowers. You know, enjoy it, have fun. That sci-fi thing, I think it's cool. I think it's awesome. I think like the whole idea of the fantasy and reality that hasn't been realized yet might be there because I'm not sure that it's there, but it should be there. It's really cool to think about that. But then, kind of when you step back into the reality, it's like, ah, well, we don't have an Iron Man because if we did, we just go over to Ukraine and we just lay waste to the Russian stuff and be done with it and put a cork in it, right? Or we'd be able to fly up in there to space and knock any comet that's coming our way and shit like that. It might happen. We don't know. Maybe there's a fucking Green Lantern ring buried underneath a rock in the middle of the ocean that we haven't got to yet. James Cameron, get your little boat, go down there, check the Titanic, look around. Might be there. Um, so this person, they're looking at you, you're looking at them, you're looking at each other. Yeah, okay, this might work out. So what do you look with? What do you look for? You look for, and I'll run down some great bullet points. You can find these online. You can find them in your own life, in your own experience, right? Number one, and if people like to call it, um, the Dennis Green comment, right? You are who we thought you were. That's exactly right. We want integrity and authenticity in the person that we are involving ourselves with. And that can be multi-leveled, right? You could have a friend, and I've talked about this like way, way back in the beginning of One More Quarter on No Filter Net Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 12:15. Um, if you're an a-hole, I can appreciate you being an a-hole. If you are the bubbly, happy person, I can appreciate that. If you are the more stoic, reasonable, logical thinking person, I can appreciate that. Not saying that you're never going to step out of that character, but 99% of the time, you are who you say you are. And that fosters in the other person, well, this person's authentic. This person really is who they say they are. Like, you know, uh, this person over here, they are amazing when it comes to helping me out with this, and this in my life, or I'm helping them out with X, Y, and Z. But I know that they're not the person to call at 2 a.m. when I'm stumbling out of Dagwoods and I need a ride home. But Joey or Mike, I can call them. That's the guy, that's the girl at that point that's gonna pick it up for me, right? So an authenticity. And they live their life in that sense of authenticity with an integrity. Like they're true to who they are. They're not showing you something here and then back on this side they're doing a whole bunch of other stuff. Now that's not saying people don't have past. People all have past. People all have fucking baggage. We got that. But and we talked about this before. Like you take your baggage, you learn from your baggage. It is what it is. You move on from it, and you go forward. And as long as you're not immature and you haven't grown and you haven't moved past and you're still wrapped up in a lot of bullshit, then you're not being authentic to who you are. You're not living with the integrity. You're not living with this sense of like, I can really trust this person or I can't trust this person. And that's our next component is that like, you want to be able to trust that person for who they are 100%. And they should be able to trust you for who you are. And it all starts, right? It all starts with this whole idea of you need to be honest again, right? Day one on Monday, right? You need to be honest with yourself as to who you are, what your skills are, what your capabilities are, what your quotas are, what your limitations are, and if you're growing and moving forward, then these things will grow and move forward with you because you're putting the time and energy into it, right? You're always trying to improve upon yourself. You're always trying to build upon yourself. When you do that, you attract the same type of people. The same type of people attract you. You have this relationship that begins to foster, it begins to grow. Like, oh my God, you are making a friend. And now that you have this baseline trust, which is why trust is so fucking important, right? Because when people break that trust or you question that trust, if there isn't enough that was put into the understanding and the relationship and the authenticity and the honesty, then it begins to like make everything all wonky. And then it's how people turn to like, I can't trust anyone. I can never find love again. I can never have this again. I could never have a career again. Oh, and snowball, snowball, snowball. Then we get into mental health. We get into crisis. We get into PTSD. I mean, there's a whole like fucking it snowballs. That's why it's a very delicate, intricate, beautiful thing. All these different relationships, all these different people, all these different engagements. So we have an authentic person. They live it with integrity, which means they do it when no one's looking. They are who they are, right? They have a character of themselves that they're not gonna undercut you, right? The individual, the way that you are to them, is that they're loyal, but they're not loyal to a fault, right? They're not loyal to a point where they will blindly follow. Looking at you, sheep people out there who are afraid to question stuff. Not saying you're wrong, not saying you're right, but all I'm saying is ask the question, right? Ask the question. Like if you walk home and you're there with your friend or you're there with your buddies and you see 30,000 stacks of mail-in votes sitting on your dining room table, you might be like, "Hey, where'd they come from?" Or you walk in and there's like a full cache of like, every single high-powered rifle in the world sitting on your table. And you might be like, "Hey, little question. Just want to talk about this. Let's just kick it back and forth. Any plans for that stuff? Just no. Okay, cool. All right. Like, don't be loyal to a fault, right? Part of the whole process and the whole growing of any relationship is like this communication, this talking. When we put the blinders on, shit gets wonky. These are also individuals who they're good listeners, right? Right. They allow you to convey whatever is going on in your life to them. They allow you to share your troubles. They allow you to share your joys. They allow you to share your questions about whatever is going through your little mind up here. Um, in that same instance, these are individuals who are able to be empathetic to your plight, empathetic, be empathetic to your joy, right? They want to take it on. They want to feel it. Yeah, involvement. Yeah, it's awesome. Let's go. Way to go. It's awesome. I mean, when someone shares something with you, right? One of the worst things people always ask, like, well, man, what is the worst thing that anyone can do to you? Or what's the worst thing that, any close friend, da, da, da. And I say, one of the worst things that happens continuously with individuals who call themselves friends or people who are in the same uh, tribe or circle or network or squad is that when a member of said entity shares with another person of the group and it's not met with the same reflective uh, joy and empathy and understanding and a congratulatory manner or a sympathetic manner if it's emotional, um, and it's dismissed. Not that it's constructively criticized, because a lot of times we want to do that. Right? We want to criticize in a constructive manner by celebrating the accomplishment or the endeavor. Right? Think a lot today. But when it's dismissed, when it's not even acknowledged, and we all know those people, right? We all know people that we want humans to get this response, this explicit inherent response from this person. Like I know Tommy's going to get all excited and flip the fuck out. I know so and so is going to get, we're having drinks and doing shots. I know some, but when I talk to Sally, I wanted to resonate with Sally, because we've been through all this stuff. We shared all this stuff. A lot of times, what you are interpreting where the relationship's at. Excuse me a second. And we're back. All right. Sorry about that. Sneezing. Yeah. Taking the allergy pills, but three cats on one. So I'm on Zyrtec. Good plug for Citrazine if you're there. I can work with you guys. Um, you want a specific response from a particular individual. And when that doesn't happen outside of these particular groups, right? The kids, the immediate family, your mom, your dad, blah, 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 brother, sister. I mean, brother, sister, maybe. And then your significant other, you kind of sit there and like, I was kind of let down right there for a second. When so and so got excited about this, or when so and so was upset that this happened, I stopped my day completely, gave them all my time and attention, you know, came over, sat with them, cried with them, took them out to dinner, made them dinner, went for a walk, whatever I needed to do in order to build up in them. And now I'm sharing this. And nothing? Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they're going through something in their own world. When that becomes repetitive and habitual, and you start having the one-way street, right? Because life is about two-way streets. Um, and yes, intersections. Oh, intersections don't get intersections. I know intersections. Believe me, I fucking know intersections. It kind of puts it's like a kick in the gut, right? So not only should this person or these persons be good listeners, but they should be empathetic, right? They should really hear and understand what you're saying. Um, Spending your time and energy and resources with said individuals shouldn't be draining, right? It shouldn't be draining. It's like, I mean, how many times have we all said them like, oh, I got to go out with so and so again tonight? Like, oh yeah, like, man, I love going out with Tom. He's really awesome, blah blah. But man, dude, that guy never tips. Or man, like he never even offers the tip. Or man, like I know. Listen, like, we had this one friend. He, I mean, like, we always say, oh, he's a great guy, but right, East Coasting, he was a great guy, but he was a great guy, but he would exhaust his resources before the main event of the month or whatever, or the weekend took place. Now he was always good for it, and anytime he re-upped, he'd always get it back to you at some point or some way. But in the instance, it was always like, well, we're going out, and all right, I'm just gonna take a couple extra bucks. I know, I'm not gonna say their name, is always gonna be a little short or a little light, or go a little above and beyond, you know, uh, the situation. Like everybody's, you got that person's like, oh, we're going out for dinner. Let's go out to dinner. Yay, blah, 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 blah. And like you had your great dinner. Everybody had some drinks. all getting ready to wrap up. You're going to go to, this place after you. You're going to go dance. You're going to go to a club. You're going to go hang out at someone's house. And there's always that one person that's like, yo, let's get to dessert. Let's have an after dinner something. Or, let's do one more round. Or let's go run up here real quick and then we'll come back. And you're like, like, yes, that's fine. But you're not prepared to go there. And eventually it's all fine. The mood's falling, everything's fine, it's going blah blah. But this happens more and more and more and more and more and more. And not that spending time with them doesn't make you feel good, but you've either justified or compromised with yourself and with your squad, network, whatever, that this is how it is, going to be like this, and what is made up by them on this backside supersedes this behavior. But a lot of times that's not the case. So spending time with these individuals, whether you're doing something or not doing something, it should make all the parties involved feel good, right? You should spend time with those individuals who, are rewarding to you and you're rewarding to them because of all the other qualities that we, had mentioned. And one of the more modern linchpins that has really, come into its own is this whole idea of like their attitude and their energy and their confidence is contagious. You feel it. The group feels it. The squad feels it. The endeavor feels it. The event begins to feel it. And there is something to this idea of um, energy, right? We used to be like, Catholics and the Christians be like, you can feel the faith, you can feel the fervor in that person. They're filled with the Holy Spirit. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, well, modern, Christian, spirit filled energy, entity. Okay, all right, I get this. And there really is, right? There's a vibe, right? I mean, it's the key word, it's the hot word. You Gen Z, millennial kids, and all. Vibe, right? You gotta have that vibe. It's like, are we vibing right now? Yeah, we got a vibe. We're vibing, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, like, really, it's like, as much as it's passe and as much as it puts bad taste in my mouth because, 70s kid here, or 70s baby, 80s kid. Oh, sorry, correct myself. Um, there really is something to having those people around you that have the same confidence, have the same goal. They support you, you support them. Um, they look at things with a more um, a and man, this is like there's so much paradox now in language, but like they look at things in a optimistic, realist view, right? Like other people say, like, well, they're an optimistic pessimist, which is a complete contradiction. Which like, yeah, they're always looking for, what's the best situation after the bomb goes off. Well, it's like, okay, well, let's not go to the crazy town, and we'll be prepared for it, and we'll put it back here, on the back burner. We're not going to forget about it. It's floating around, but let's be a little more optimistic about the reality of the situation that's going on. Hey, so you're living far away from home. Your support system that you had in place that got you to this point, who may or may not be supporting you right now is away. Things that make you feel comfortable because you've challenged yourself to step outside your box, they're not always there and readily available to you. But look at all of this opportunity to go into this new hardware store of life and find these new tools, these new friends, these new endeavors, these new experiences that you can take with you. And it's like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. There's something to this. Instead, you're laying there, you're in your bed, you're in your little loft, you're in your little, you know, 500 square foot apartment paying $1,800 a month, and you're like, this sucks. I got not da 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 and this and that, and you're not helping yourself. And then the people around you come like, man, so cramped in here. Let's get this open. And you like then start snowballing. Come on, build it up. The confidence, right? laugh at each other's jokes. Um, there's no competition. The only competition is to push the other person, to along in what they're doing, right? You stick up for each other. You're invested in each other. Um, you accept one another for everything: the good, the bad, the ugly, the baggage, the potential, and then the actualization of the reality that's before you. They help normalize your life and your experience. That's great, right? On the other side, and what we find a lot of times, and we find these in the groups of individuals who we're told or who we automatically make an assumption are going to be the ones, excuse me, that are going to be there. Oh, they're my high school boys. They're my high school girls. They're my college guys. They're my neighborhood. They're the people from the block. They're the people from, the team. They're the people. You can be on a team and you can be extremely distant. You can be on a team with a shit ton of talent and you can have no success. Lots of infighting, lots of competition with one another, lots of negative criticism towards one another. You can have a lot of attitude. You can have a lot of ego. You can have a lot of subtle undercutting, right? All that can be there. In these sort of instances, the 180 from the guys and the girls that we just described, you you immediately have apprehension and hesitation when it comes to completely trusting the other person. Like what is the one of the quintessential things of being a great teammate is like, sometimes you have to get out of your own way, right? Get out of your own way. We know what you got, right? But take that ego for a second. Just let it be. Now you're going to use that ego because that ego is part of you. It's part of your characteristics. It's part of everything that makes you you, makes you the Mamba, makes you Jordan, makes you the killer, makes you the thriller. But take it for a second and get out of your own way. But when you don't have that trust, where you're unable to trust them, and that's a big thing for a human. Or a big thing for a human is like allowing someone, and this is why relationships when they don't work. That's why relationships when there is um, uh, cheating, or relationships when there is an undercutting, or there's relationships that end unsanctimoniously because of an outside factor. Uh, it's very difficult then for people to put themselves back out there, you know? And I'll get to one solution for that. And if you're watching this later, I hope it helps you guys. Um, these individuals are overly critical and judgmental. And a lot of times this happens on the backside, or it happens in a roundabout manner. And they feel like they're giving you, this positive, constructive criticism, when in actuality, they are judging not only your not only your behaviors, not only your actions, which a good friend, hey, why are you doing that? But they become overly judgmental of every little single thing that you're doing. A lot of times because they don't understand what's going on, and that leads back to the communication and the openness and the honesty. But this judgment usually becomes very cynical, very critical, very um, damning, almost to a point, right? Um, these are also the people that they don't give you space, and vice versa, you don't give them space. And space in that sense is it's specific to the individual in the situation. Uh, some friends, again, keep the outside relationship stuff aside. They want to be around you as much as they possibly can. That's just who they are, right? There's extroverted introverts, there's introverted extroverts, there's extrovert extrovert, introvert introvert. Some people rely on a specific amount of interaction from their group, and there's an internal matrix for every person. I can take 3 hours of my mom. I can take 3 weeks of my dad on a regular basis, right? Yeah, I can take 3 weeks of Tony. I can take 2 days of AJ, right? Maybe that person is reflecting the same thing that you're reflecting, but no one will come out and really lay out those little groundworks. It's like, hey man, like you're like in their face, 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 and vice versa. They're in your face, in your face, in your face, in your world, in your world. And what happens is that in those moments, you have one person, right? Because we're going to talk about, the types of people who's always like the sheep. They're like, oh, okay, all right. And then they start to compromise all of their being, self, wants, comments, opinions, whatever, to acquiesce the needs of the other person in order to keep things the status quo, not to rock the boat. That works. There's compromise. There's sometimes yes, sometimes no. But when you don't allow things to marinate, let it breathe, let it, you know, develop, you run into a little bit of friction. You do. It's like absence makes the heart grow fonder, and there's something to that. You never know what you have until it's gone. Appreciate all the things you have because you never know when they'll be taken away. It's like, yeah, it's very true. Which means like in a positive, constructive, good, wholesome, growing relationship, you're always, you know, what was it? Is it Revolver? Baby, come back. Baby, not a fool to be. Right, you're always coming back. You always want to come back to it. You always want to come back to it. There's never like a forced moment of coming back into that space. But if you don't have that space, and that's why it's so important in very, very intimate relationships, that there is some built in space where you are able to fully see and understand and appreciate how this beautiful symphony works between all the people involved. That's why, like, for the longest time, like, how did your grandparents stay together for so long? How did they make it? Well, my grandfather got up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. He was out of the house. There was no telephone. There was no cell phone. There was no texting. There was no pager. There was no radio communication. And he was gone for that whole day until he came back at 5, maybe 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And then they would sit down and they'd have a meal and they'd share. And I'm sure there was days where my grandfather was like, "Yo, Weez, yo, you're handling this inside world stuff." And I'm sure there were other times where it was like, "No, Frank, it was important that I bring this to your attention because X, Y, and Z." But this idea of, and this goes back to our social media conversation last Wednesday and Friday, that everything is so instantaneously readily available at this point that you almost are without space, whether you like it or not. There is no time for you to process what is going on, what you're involved in to its fullest potential because you are so inundated with this connectivity. Connectivity is a great thing. Fantastic. Love it. Fantastic technology, blah, 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 blah. But we are designed to observe and process. And when you're constantly in this cycle of observing and process, that think time shrinks, right? That not having space time shrinks to where what happens, it becomes habitual, it becomes negatively compromising, it becomes scared to speak up and say something because you don't want to offend or rock the boat, which gets back to the whole trust issue, which gets back to the whole honesty issue, which gets back to the whole um, fulfillment shit in the relationship. Um, when all this takes place, there's always one or two that rise to the top in a negative way, right? So they their needs and their wants and their expectations and their bottom line always comes first. I would love to hang out with you, but hey, man, I've got to go to the gym first. Well, I only have till 4 to 7, then I'm done. Well, I go to the gym from 4 to 5:30 or 4 to 6, so I get home, I get showered, so I really only got an hour's worth of your time. You're like, oh man, that's okay. Don't worry about it. That's cool. You know. Oh, hey, I would love to meet you on Sunday for pregame, and then watch the game at 1, and we'll see what happens for the rest of the day. And they're the ones like, well, I went out late Saturday, got in early, got up, had to run here, do this errand, had to put the laundry in, had to da, 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 da. I'll see you at 2. By that time, the ship has already sailed. But that's who they begin to be. Um, they they always rely on you to, I don't want to say take care of them, but there's a certain expectation that when they're with you and around you or hanging out with you, that if it really comes down to it, you got them covered. Right? So, oh yeah, I got you covered. Don't worry about it. We'll pick it up. I got you covered. We got you covered. And it's like, yeah, like that's okay. One time, 2 times, I mean, but habitually, no, man. Like, come on. Like, at some point, you gotta pull your own weight, right? Like, and people pull their own weight in different avenues. You compromise in the friendship, whatever you want to do. Um, that leads to them being, like, we call it it's like the priority negative friendship. That's like that friendship always comes first, and it's like, hey, I'd love to hang out with Joe, and Joe's like Joe. He says 10 o'clock. He'll be here at 9:55, waiting and ready to go. But I really, really, really want to hang out with Jason because it's just a lot better time with Jason once I really get him going. And even though he's short on this sometimes, even though uh, he's got to make sure that he gets his workout in, and he's got to you know talk to me about this and criticize that, and oh, I'm just making fun of you. I'm just ribbing you. I'm just busting your balls. Um, but they begin to then interfere with all these other relationships. Like, come on, I put you on the back burner because I want to hang out with him. Oh yeah, I didn't show up to this party because I wanted to hang out with him or her. I went, I waited on you because a better option came available when I went there. And what happens is that you then wake up after that, because the biggest thing about these people in relationships is that once a better offer comes along, once for the word, folks, but it's a gambling thing, right? Like, once a bigger whale comes along, you start to see this space more and more and more, and they might check in with you. Yo, what's going on? It's great. It's amazing, blah, blah. And you're like, oh wow, maybe there's an opportunity. It'd be so cool. It'd be awesome. Oh, okay, love it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you don't hear from them for like 3 months, or like 6 months, right? Something always like that always comes up. Something always better for them, blah blah, but not for you. So they're always putting themselves, to the forefront, to the first. And it's like, okay, I can make that work. But no. And in turn, you wind up making a lot of compromises. And if other people in this group that used to be your friends or used to be the people you associated with, they grow up, man. They move forward. They have a place for you in their life, but it's not right now. You passed on that opportunity because you were so fixated on something that wasn't, healthy, which is why, as we wrap up today, why it's so important that you have you have no control over other individuals' choices, right? You have no control over other individuals' actions. You may influence them, they may influence you, they may have a false understanding that you're going to be there for them no matter what. If the bottom drops out, or always going to have a place to, you know, fall back on, you know, I can't tell you to be or not be a generous person or a kind person or a giving person. All I can say is, use temperance and prudence and, care, better wherewithal with things going forward. But you have no control over those individuals and their choices. And if those choices, that other individuals that you consider to be in your circle of friends, your squad, your network, your tribe, your team, if that becomes taxing and draining and not fruitful and not positive, then you've got to be willing, man. You've got to be willing, or girl, you got to be willing, girl. You got to be willing, man. You got to be willing. They, he, she, we, person, um, to make the tough decision to be like, listen, like I, it was a great ride, but there's just nothing that is going to be a benefit of this friendship or relationship going forward, right? And that's a tough conversation, especially when you feel internally that you've been honest with yourself and them the whole while, and they feel that they've been honest and true with you the whole time and the whole while. And again, go back to day whatever. You got to go in and be like, look, there it is. There it is. Good, bad, ugly, where I'm at now, what's happening, how we're driving this bus, how we're moving forward. And it's like, yeah, like, okay, I can work with this. And if you are consistently engaging on this level, I'm not saying you got to fucking share and open up and have a bottle of wine and hold each other's hands and, every freaking time you get together. But don't be afraid to check in with that person. Don't be afraid for them to check in with you and really check in. Like, man, this is going on in my world. This is bothering me. Oh, what's going on with you? Oh, okay. All right. And then listen. Don't just hear, but listen. And if you're going to empathize and enjoy the fruits of all these endeavors, and people want to do them and they fucking want to share. People want to share, right? It's contagious. You grow, you share, right? And sharing comes in like so many different ways, so many different avenues, so many different vehicles, right? It's a good thing. Good thing, right? They're the ones who are like, dude, I just want a trip to fucking Hawaii. Let's go. And you're like, awesome, let's go. Well, let's do it. And they want you to share and involve and have that joy, but to know that they can trust you because you're putting your work in, they're putting their work in your personal life, in their personal life. And when you bringing it together, you're just being wrong. You're just being honest. You're not blowing smoke up somebody's ass. You might do that sometimes for a little confidence boost, but you're always like, yeah, man, you're awesome, blah, 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 blah. You're fantastic. But a couple more miles on the treadmill, a couple more reps, actually sitting down and writing out some shit. Just saying, and they're like, yeah, I know. Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Thanks, girl. Thanks, girl. Hug it out, hug it out. Put on fucking, what the kids watch Stranger Things nowadays. Have yourself an evening. But it's things like that. So knowing you can't control those people, knowing that you cannot control other people's choices, knowing that you cannot so greatly impact their final decision, because it's always an individual choice, which is another moving this on, right? Um, be honest, be open. And when you find yourself in a situation where you feel as if, and this is not relatives, this isn't immediate family, and this isn't spouse, because there's some great philosophers who said like there are different levels of relationships. And there's nothing wrong with these friendships are great. These friendships can develop into these more intimate relationships. But when you find yourself in a spot where you've know that you've given your energy, you know that you've given your time, your effort, blah blah blah, and they have done the same thing. Let's be honest. Maybe they've done the same thing in their own capacity around the world. And if you've talked about it, if you laid it out, if you're on the same page, if you both agree that you are giving your all, and usually people go, "Oh, yeah, I give my all, I give my all," and you're like, "You're not really giving your all, but you're saying you're giving your all." But whatever you need to justify your role, that comes to the psyche of the person too. Another conversation. There's a great Eastern quote, and I'm going to butcher the hell out of it, a Buddhist quote, and it says, that you have to be willing to understand that certain people come into your lives for a finite amount of time, and you have to be mature enough to know that when that time comes, although the letting go and the separation component isn't always the happiest, warmest, fuzziest feeling that we as humans can experience, for your growth and your greater good and your metaphorical happiness and their happiness, it's okay to walk away from that and move away from that. And you always walk away. One of the great things about Eastern religion and Eastern philosophy is that you're always walking away, hopefully, in a better form of your truest self. Oh man, we're getting fucking deep today. But you should walk away from that being like, I learned this about myself. I grew this much. They learned this about themselves. They grew, and now it's time for us to, take the lesson, grasshopper, and move on to the next. Cue David Carradine with the rodent hat, and we're a Raiden hat, and we're on our way. So that's where I am with you guys for today. We'll continue this conversation on Friday because I have a great little thing to wrap up the week on the this avenue of the people and building ourselves and relationships and friends. Not going to get to the family stuff yet. Save that for next week, and intimate stuff. Save that for next week. But yeah, choice. Sometimes they're there for the long haul. Sometimes not so much. But when you need to make that choice to let go, people aren't always in your life for the long haul, and that's fine. Going to get upset, going to get frustrated, going to be tough, especially if they've woven themselves into sort of like the fabric. But if you can step outside yourself for a second, and if they can step outside of themselves for a second, and you really look at the benefits, and you really look at the pros and the cons. I mean, honestly, look at the pros and cons. Don't burn the bridge. Although this philosophy, burn the bridge because you don't want to go back to where they are, and I get that. But you empower yourself to move on to something truer to who you are supposed to be. Uh, Later tonight, 8 p.m., nofilter.net, Bleacher Brothers Sports Network, Bleacher Brothers Show, 8 p.m., AJ Johnson, Nick the Flick, myself, Lenny Dykstra, nails all over it. We're going to break down the NLCS. Hopefully by that time, we're having a great evening. ALCS kicks off, and hey, good luck, Yankees. Good luck. Maybe they're going to play it on adrenaline, but you playing a division series game yesterday after 2 shit ton rain delays. Get on a plane after celebrating. I was watching how they were celebrating. I was thinking to myself, note to self, I would celebrate, but I'm not going to celebrate that much because I got to get up tomorrow morning after I flew across the country, dude up. And oh yeah, by the way, I gotta I gotta I gotta face this guy named Birdlander who probably a little pissed off at the way his last outing went. Hey, Yankees, good luck. Houston, they'll be ready for you. Phillies, Padres, 4:35 on the East Coast, 1:35 on the West Coast. Aaron Nola, Blake Snell, um, really, really, really good matchups today. Uh, Baseball, man, there is not there. Truth be told, like I love the Stanley Cup playoffs. I just think there's something to the Stanley Cup playoffs. There's a vibe, there's an energy to it. Um, it gets progressively better, the Stanley Cup playoffs. And honestly, I haven't followed it as closely as I should have as of late. Go Rangers! Sorry, Flyer fans. I know it's one of my flaws. Um, that Flyers, 3-0. Sixers, okay, contenders. Phillies doing their thing. Eagles doing their thing. Still a lot of time left. But October baseball, man, wow. When it really gets into it, and we've seen a lot of really really cool, really good moments, and we'll get into all the offensive stuff later on tonight, Bleach Brothers show. But man, October baseball, right? October bleeping baseball. All right, guys, everyone have a good day, good afternoon. I will see you all later tonight, 8 p.m. Bleach Brothers Sport Network on nofilter.net. AJ Johnson, Nick the Flick, Lenny Dykstra, myself, break it all down. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 12:15, one recorded myself. Duncan Dad. 9:15 on a Friday into the nightcap. John from Mayfair, the great John from Mayfair. Catalyst. Play Action Reel. Penguin AZ. Of course, you can catch Penguin AZ Mondays, Retro Ads with Luker. Thursdays, Retro Show with Luker. Burnsy and Clark still out there doing the simulcast, broadcast, live commentary as the ALCS and NLCS is going on. Everybody knows the story. If you don't, I'm going to tell you. A long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, Crash Test Dummy himself, MLB Network, sitting around, chatting with the boys, watching the chat blow up as they're watching the games in the playoffs. And he's like, boom, spontaneous moment, epiphany happens. He's like, let's make it live. Let's really make it live. And boom, little seeds are planted. We love the platform. Big welcome to Henry Markin. I'm going to go back and finish checking out the rest of his program out there. I'm trying to see. I know Anthony Manuel had a show coming on later today. I'm going to try to bring this up real quick. I can give the full rundown. Of course, there's the Aftermath show with Captain Ron. There is. Well, we got All In versus Top Tier, Sean McMillan, 7 p.m. Tonight. That's All In Baseball. Then we also have Deuces Wild, called it out, Burnsy, 9 p.m. We got the Bill Collector, Bill Malice Jr. Bill, man. Listen, you guys want to follow a really, really talented artist in a sports kind of niche, look him up. Bill Cormalis, Cormalis. He goes by the Bill Collector. Some of the stuff that he puts together, I mean, like, it almost looks like this lithograph of like your childhood when it comes to baseball stuff. I saw some of the cards that he augments, saw some of the original art that he puts out. Like, man, like I remember seeing that, when I'm ripping open my, like, 84, 85, 86 top stuff. And I have a couple things that I came across I need to send out to Bill. So Bill, I gotta get up with you in the DMs to get that out to you. And also, um, I know Quentin's kind of taking a break, but I got some stuff to send out to Quentin too. Pepe's parlay picks tomorrow, 7 p.m. Joe Manuel hitting the parlays. NFL Week 7, no huddle with Big Ben and K-Win. What's up, West Side? That's 8:15 tomorrow. But then again, tonight, like I said, we've got Bleach Brothers Sports Network show, 8 p.m. Deuces Wild. They're going to run theirs at 9, so that's right after our little gig is going to be done. They're going to have the ALCS No Filter broadcast. Then tomorrow also, we've got Captain Ron, Rockin' Reese, 3 p.m. Check it out. No filter, great content, great people, great platform. You got an idea. You want to talk about something. Trying to find a place to kind of get your ideas out there? NoFilter.net. Get you set up, create your account, schedule an event, give me a little bio, tag people, share it, create your tickets, make a tip button, start a subscription. Your audience is out there. They're waiting for you to give them the content that they want. Be passionate, be open, be understanding. Be excited, man. Be excited. Be excited, ladies. Caveat, no hate speech. No hate speech. Nothing below the belt. Be good. Be true. Stay warm. See you later tonight, everybody.